Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Women Who Rock Investigates, where branding just got even better for women. Our media source provides case studies in the areas of health, policy and government, human resources, and more. Our experts are handpicked with credible information to validate the latest in these studies. Join us each Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time after Women Who Rock with Success. Now, let's go to the show.
And good morning and welcome to Women Who Rock Investigates. This is your host, Ms. Diane Winbush, joining you today here Central Standard Time at 10 o'clock a.m. And, of course, our show always is able to provide case study reports and information in various areas and topics. So today we're going to be still talking about the DACA program, and the reason why this is so sensitive to me is because I had an opportunity to work with the Immigration and U.S. Marshals several years ago, and so most of the language that I have learned from through Spanish and what have you are through immigrants. They were freely able to share different phrases and words and terms with me, and so somehow I guess the topic allows me to be able to give back to them in that area. And so today we will be discussing about the DACA program, as well as we've been talking about it for the last several weeks. So today on the show, we have immigration attorneys that will bring you resources, tools, and answers as to some of your inquiries in regards to that topic. So today we have Wilner and Riley, law attorney Joshua Despain. Also in the studio will be immigration attorney Renata Castro from Castro Legal Group, as well as federal immigration attorney Rebecca, I want to say, Nieberg, if I pronounced that right. So we're going to get right into the broadcast right after this commercial break.
When a potential client walks into Wilner and O'Reilly, I think the first thing they'll expect is to get great service. They can see that it's a professional operation, and when they leave, they will leave confident that their problem can be solved. I'm a former immigration officer, and my partner Richard is a certified immigration specialist, which only 2 or 3% of all practicing lawyers actually obtain or become. Our lawyers are required to be up to date. They're required to be scholars. They're required to be thinkers. They are at the forefront of immigration. We have a mantra that we've always used, and that is lawyers you can trust. Trust to take care of you. Trust to think about you. Trust to come up with unique, imaginative ideas to take care of you. So we're a full-service immigration practice helping people to achieve their dream of living here in the United States.
Okay, great. And so we're back on the show, and so I want to see who I have with me this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning. And see, it seems like it's only one that's on the show that has came on at this minute, so we can go ahead and get started until the other ones arrive. So tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about what you do as far as an immigration attorney.
Sure. My name is Becca Nyberg. I am a former federal immigration officer. I currently have a practice called Elpis Legal that I run out of our office in Maryland. And I have, almost 20 years now, I guess, of experience working in immigration law, working on both the policy side and then the legal side as well.
Okay, great. Okay. And so the first question, I guess, we've had another attorney on, and I think he's already explained the DACA program and what it means and what have you. So what does it mean? Share with the listeners what does it mean to when it says deferred action?
So deferred action means that there's not actually any status being given with this program. These people cannot become citizens. They don't even have a green card. What it is putting a pause on any sort of adverse immigration action against them. So, for example, if this program didn't exist, someone who had come in could be put into immigration proceedings and removed from this country back to their country of birth. Deferred action means we're not going to go through that process. The government is not going to be pursuing those actions against them.
Okay, great response. So, as you know, there was a memorandum that was released on the 28th of 2020 of this year. And so I know there were some tactics that the president has, is he wants to make America great. And sometimes some phrases may be offensive to other, ethnicities and what have you. So we want to go over some of them today. And so the first one is, according to effective immediately, the DHS shall reject all initial requests. However, there are still some concerns in regards to that because some attorneys are still, asking their clients to go ahead and apply for it. So it's kind of a little confusion here as to what the president, where he's at, the DACA program, and as to the recipients as to what they should be doing at this time. It's stating here that it's been, just reject all of it, we're not going to be bothered with it. Then they come back and they say something else. So at this point in time, as of August the 13th, as of today, what would you suggest for the recipients to do?
I mean, you almost have to put a time on that because these policies have changed so quickly, gone back so far. So, I mean, even this afternoon, we could see something different. But yes, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of legal wrangling going on right now, which is part of the issue. There's a Supreme Court case, of course, that came out that said that the DACA program could have been established, and reestablishing the DACA program, or at least saying to this administration, you may rescind this program, but the way that you did it was not correct. So you can rescind it, but you have to do it in a different way. The administration, after this court case, has not rescinded, has not taken any sort of action to rescind the program further, which is great, which means that DACA should still be alive. We should still be able to file DACA petitions, in the first instance if the people applying meet the characteristics. The problem is that the government's not accepting them. So we have a very difficult problem here about what to tell our clients. So, without going way into the legal weeds of things, there's always a question. Do you try and file, knowing that it will be rejected, knowing that you will not get it right now because the government has, I have literally the page up right now that says we are not accepting new DACA petitions. But do you do it because you want to prove later on that you tried? And that can be very important depending on how further legal issues or further cases develop the law.
Absolutely, because it appears to be a lot of confusion. It's causing the recipients to be in fear. They don't know what to do, even after they seek out an attorney to be able to help them to understand more about the results as it continues to digress and progress. They're confused at this time, and so that's the reason why we're going to continue these conversations, perhaps maybe throughout, even if the president is reelected for 2020. I think it's still good for these conversations to continue to keep a close eye to make sure that the recipients are aware as to each location. I know each state is different, as far as immigration attorneys and what they will share with recipients, but I think it's very, very important to keep this conversation going. So I think we have another guest that has come on. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Hello. Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Yes, I was listening to the conversation in the United States, citizen, African American. And I agree with the administration. I think that people should come into the country legally. They should apply legally.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm totally saddened and disgusted with these judges trying to legislate from the bench rather than just interpret the law and stop adding. But no, I welcome legal immigration. And I tell you a story real quick. I know a friend who married in 2012 a foreign spouse. Since 2013, he's been trying to do it the legal way and can't get it done. But when he look at those who's doing it the illegal way, it's just disheartening. It is. It's very disheartening for that. So no, come in the legal way. And those that's here, go out and reapply to come in the legal way. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. And so, thanks for your opinion. So, this question is back for. We're going to continue the question, and this is for continue for you, Becca. And so, adjudicating all pending and future properly submitted DACA requests and so associated applications for employment. So now, what are the risks for recipients that are trying to get employment, even if they are already approved by DACA?
So the renewal process has been going fairly smoothly. I feel like I should knock on all the wood about this. Has been going pretty smoothly, and that's one of the things that the DACA program does is it provides work authorization. So instead of having people working, because I mean obviously we all have to work, we all have to earn some sort of money to be able to put food on our table and a roof over our head. So making sure that people are working with proper authorization actually protects all of us, because if there's no sort of regulation, there's the opportunity for private business to take advantage of workers. So instead of hiring at the minimum wage, paying much below the minimum wage, for example, because they don't have to report it and they can get away with it. So providing that work authorization is really important, not only for the DACA recipients, but for, every worker within the system. Going to a larger question, there's a risk with DACA. There's been a risk since, the program first was initiated. And the risk is that you're giving your personal information to the government. And with many of these DACA families, it's a child, right, that really is getting the benefit of it. And there may be other people within their household who don't have status. So by giving information about your address, for example, there's a risk there that, immigration authorities may come to your address to pick up, let's say, your parent, because now they know where you're living. And there is always, with every sort of immigration benefit, the affirmative burden to keep the government apprised of your current address. So that being said, if you decide to move, right, you move from one apartment to another, you move from one city to another, whatever it is, you are supposed to let the government know exactly where you are. Whether that's followed in practice, especially for those who have status, it kind of goes back and forth. Again, you have that legal duty to do that, but there's some protection there if you move that, the government authorities may show up to your old apartment and you're no longer there. They can't arrest your parent, bring them in, that kind of thing. So there is always that risk. So when you're applying for, continuation of your work permit, you're renewing your DACA, especially in this climate with an administration that has been very hostile to immigrants in general, giving personal information, even like your address, can be somewhat, disconcerting, if not dangerous for families.
Absolutely. And so, as I think I shared on a former podcast that we had, it was a lot of people that wanted to register for the Q&A that we had, but it was like at the end or the day of the actual, which we still went ahead with the podcast, and their questions weren't answered, but it was like they got cold feet. So when it comes to them applying for certain things, they're kind of, optional as to how they want to reveal and what they want to share as far as personal information, even their identity. And so, but we still was able to get the information that it was that they needed. So that was the most important thing. So, and so that's the reason why we're having these conversations, because we want to help them to be open if they desire to be open. So in regards to the memorandum that was released, we're going back to that, and it states also that they to limit the period of any deferred action granted pursuant to the DACA policy after the issuance of this memorandum. So, even though the president wants to perhaps, or he's undecided in regards to the program, whether he wants it to leave or whether he wants it to stay, and so a lot of times we have to get to the root of the problem. So, I go back to some of the statements that he have made, which we are not critical against President Trump. There are a lot of things that I do agree with him, and so on this factor, I do not agree with, trying to just, shift everyone away, especially if we have 2 or 3 million immigrants that are here in the United States. I think everybody deserves a fair treatment as to how they live or their living arrangements, so to speak. So to make America great, I think that's the root of the problem, of that he wants to send them back so he can have a specific ethnicity that I think everybody is overlooking. So he wants a specific type of background of people that he wants to be around, or wants America to be able to be incorporated with. So I have an issue with that, but, like I said, there are other things that I do agree with some of his policies, just not this one here. So in regards to that, limit the period. That's another statement that was listed on the memorandum, limiting the period of any deferred action granted pursuant to the DACA policy after the issuance of this memorandum. So why is it that you feel that they're trying to limit everything on one side of the scope and versus them giving the access to attorneys to be able to receive clients on the other side of the scope? That's kind of we're still talking about the confusion of it all.
Yeah, so, if you look at the Pew Research Center, they did a study back in June about who makes up DACA. And almost all of the recipients, I think it's well over 90%, are people who were born in either Latin America or in the Caribbean. So generally speaking, we are talking about non-white individuals here. And they also looked at the popularity of the program, and 74% of everybody within the United States thinks that this is a good program. They're in favor of continuing the DACA program. DACA was never intended to be the end or the answer, the answer period. It was supposed to be the beginning of what we could do to help people who were brought here as children, many of whom literally do not even remember the country that they were born in. They have very few connections to that country. And I think we can all, kind of put aside whatever, wherever we fall on the immigration spectrum to understand that this is really, the United States is really their country, their home country. We've had DACA recipients where, they left their home country when they were 6 months old. They have no connection there. I think we can all, at least almost all of us can understand that this is now their country. Right. This is where they grew up. This is where they've got their connections and their roots and things like that. At this point, I do think that the Trump administration is using this program as leverage, as, political maneuvering. President Trump, for whatever his failings may be that we may find in him, he looks at polls. He looks at and sees where the popularity of things are. So he's not deaf to, seeing that this program is very popular. And it's popular on both sides of the aisle, so it's a great bargaining chip for him politically. So, I would expect that more of the hesitation or the posturing about canceling the program has more to do with politics than the actual program.
Okay. And that could be, I don't want to get into the other things that they are saying about the politics in regards to the pandemic that is going on. But I kind of agree with you on that one. in regards to the politics. Sometimes decisions that are made, it can be made in regards to political things, and then sometimes it can affect others as well. And so we certainly don't want that to happen with this program that individuals rely on. The immigrants, they rely on the DACA program so they can perhaps feel safe and they can be able to build a lifestyle here in the United States. So what should an individual consider before applying for DACA?
So it's a very personalized decision, and it's going to depend on, the overall personal circumstances. How much do they need the work permit, things like that. There's a young woman in my particular community here in Maryland that's pursuing a career in medicine and could not do that because you have to have a Social Security number, for example, in order to work in a hospital. So applying for her means that she actually can pursue medicine, and she can, I don't remember whether she's trying to be a nurse or a doctor, but providing that really critical care for all of us and really helping us out in that part of it. And, interestingly enough, she falls in the very small percentage that is not from Latin America or the Caribbean. I believe she's from India. But, being able to pursue a career in medicine and, career in public health, helping us all out. I mean, these kids are really, can really be beneficial. But it's really a personal circumstance and weighing, what happens if I give my information to the government. And especially with a program that has been very politicized, is this going to have ramifications for my family because I'm now caught in the middle of this political wrangling? That being said, if the government already know, immigration officials already know where your family is and you have no other options, then, this seems like a much easier decision to make. I will say that any time that you need an attorney, whether it's an immigration attorney or for any other matter, you should be interviewing attorneys. This person needs to be on your side and somebody that you can trust. And there's a wide variety of opinions within the legal profession, even if you break it down to within the immigration legal profession, about what is appropriate, about what is available, everything like that. And you have to be able to trust your attorney to give you the right information. If you walk into an office and the attorney says, we're going to do this, and you have no opportunity for discussion, that should raise a red flag. Because it's always your case. It is always, that the immigrant gets to drive the bus being their potential relief. Maybe you have more than one option. Maybe there's only one potential. Maybe there's one, maybe it's not even going to work potential. But you need to have a good conversation and a good working relationship with your attorney so that you can discuss all of the possibilities. You can discuss what are the drawbacks, what are the positives to doing this. And it's not just a matter of, well, the attorney wants to do this, so I'm just going to do it. You need to be in control of that case, and you need to be having those discussions with an attorney.
Absolutely. I want to, go back to what you had stated in regards to the benefits that the U.S. can be able to gain from other nationalities. For an example, while working for the U.S. Marshals and Fort/Immigrations, so in Memphis, which is a location that is near us, they have a whole entire street, and it's called Jackson Street. Anything on that street deals with immigration. The grocery store, the automobile techs or what have you, apartments, whatever, taxes, get your taxes done. All of the entire street deals with immigration. And I was able to see so much progress from this one gentleman had built a home brick from the ground, and it had all the features, the amenities, and it appeared to, as if it was, he was living in a, high prestigious area. So that's one factor that I thought about as well as what you stated. There are a lot of things that they can be able to do to be able to bring asset to the United States instead of trying to, do away with some. They have a lot of gifts and talents. Some of them they speak fluent English, and some of them don't. But it's the crafts of their hands that they have that can be able to be an asset. And even one of the U.S. Marshals himself had went in there, and it's a location on the same strip in Shelby County where they get up and they load up every day, and they sit there waiting for someone to come and pick them up for work. And so it's about 50 of them that bees out there. And so one of the U.S. Marshals went in there and just grabbed up about 6 of them, and they went in there and they repaired a lot of things in his home and, did a lot of infrastructure. So it's very important, I guess, to look at the way the whole entire situation out as the pros and cons. You can be gaining a whole lot, I would think the U.S. would in having them here. So who can help the individual to complete a DACA application or give advice on a case? Now, we know attorneys can. So we shared on the broadcast, I think a couple of weeks ago, Becca, in regards to individuals going to attorneys, but they was not getting the right information, or they were turning them down and what have you. So I guess that was one of the next questions that I saw is who can help the individual to complete the DACA application.
So you need to find either an attorney or a board-accredited representative to help you fill out those forms. Nobody else should be doing that for you. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, I would argue it's the unauthorized practice of law. It may be criminal for them to do that. But the other thing is, we talked about at the beginning of the program, the incredible complexity of what is going on right now. The immigration code is second in length only to the tax code. And I don't know very many people who pull up their taxes and just do it by hand without either using an accountant or TurboTax or something like that. This is too important for you to entrust to somebody else that does not know what they're doing. That I eat, sleep, breathe immigration, and and I have the background, to really help people. You cannot, we see this all the time with well-meaning individuals. I have a client who actually lives in Tennessee now. He started in Florida, who filed an application for his wife to come over and to join him. He's a green card holder. He's a lawful permanent resident and filed for his wife. And it should have been a pretty simple approval for him to do, right? You have the right to bring your spouse over. We want to keep the marriages happy. The person that he went to was not qualified, was not an attorney, was not a board accredited representative, and they made mistakes, and that case was denied. And the only reason it was denied was because there were mistakes made. I have several cases right now that I'm handling for people where they filled it out themselves, and it went wrong.
Oh, wow.
So I'm handling it because they've had problems. So you are gambling. If you are filling it out yourself, or if you're having somebody, because they're cheaper, because I get it. Like, attorneys are expensive. I completely understand that. But you may end up paying more in the long run because you didn't put everything to begin with. It takes me more time and therefore costs my clients more money when I'm fixing a mistake.
Okay.
So it's very important to have somebody who's qualified helping with any sort of immigration petition, whether it's for DACA or for any other, your spouse, whatever else, because the propensity for it to go wrong is just so high. It's so complicated.
would think so as well, simply because of the fact, they have, and I'm a part of some DACA recipient groups on social media, so I can be able to be a voice for them, get their questions, and get answers for them, and they take information from so many people, and sometimes, look, Becca, sometimes I even feel that there are scams that are in the groups as well. So sometimes people, they will pose themselves as, we can help you to do this. They'll get all of the information and what have you, because there are, even though people may look at immigrants as more like a second class or of an entity in the United States, there are some intelligent individuals. They have their own, like in California, Arizona, you have to kind of broaden your scope out a little bit, and then you can be able to find a lot of more individuals that are immigrants that have, 6-7 figure incomes annually and what have you. But that's the reason why I come into the groups. I get into the groups and try to talk to them to see, what can I get answered for you and what have you, because I do feel that there are some scams, and so I'm so thankful that you brought that out as to, you need to find an attorney to help you to be able to fill it out, someone that is qualified, because people be given so many answers. I just sit back in a group, I will look, and I'm like, no, this don't look right, but I won't say anything because that's not my priority to go in there and say anything, but I will try to go to several of the individuals that are in the group. So it's very, very important that the recipients know and do their research, like Joshua Despain. He's an immigration attorney as well with Wilner and O'Reilly. He made it specifically known a couple of weeks ago as to, making sure you do your research as to searching out for the right attorney. So the next question will be, in regards to that, is, and what are some of the demands that people can make to lawmakers to protect immigrant communities? So before you answer that, Becca, as I stated before, sometimes people are fearful of coming forward in regards to making their petitions heard and what have you. I know that immigrants, when they come out of the woodwork when it comes to protesting and what have you. So what are some of the demands that you would implement to the audience as to what they can be able to do towards, how they can make their voices heard even clearer to lawmakers to protect their communities?
So let me back up just a second to a point that you were making about scams. And what usually happens is I like to ascribe good intent to people. I don't like to think they're intentionally doing something wrong. Right. And so what I see a lot of the times happening is something along the lines of me as a member of my immigrant community gets a petition approved, and I did it all myself. So I say, oh, I did it. I'm good at this. I will help you do it because I've already done it once. Okay. And then it kind of snowballs because, immigrant communities are very insular. So, for example, there's an Ethiopian community in Washington, D.C. There's an Italian community in Baltimore, just as a couple of examples. And they refer within themselves. So, once you get a good result for, somebody within that community, everybody else comes to that person. And, you're making money, and why wouldn't you want to help your community and things like that? And then you kind of get in over your head. Or there's a change that you're not aware about because you don't have the training to be able to look for that change, whatever it is, and then things start going south. And unfortunately, it affects the person who's doing the preparations a lot less than the people who are going to them. So what you should always be doing, like I said, either a board-accredited rep or an attorney, and you can look at that online. If, for example, if you're in Maryland, you can do a search on the Maryland case system and see if the person is an attorney and whether they're in good standing. You can do a search on the Executive Office for Immigration Review website to see if the person is a board accredited representative. They've gone through the training. They know what they're doing. You have that base level, and you should be doing that. If you're going to a person who tells you that they can prepare your immigration petition for you, you should be able to find them online in either one of those two places every single time.
Right.
Because if not, you are gambling, and it's not a good gamble.
I would think so. And so at this critical time, immigrants are very vulnerable. I would like to say, in between the DACA and between, well, do I stay or is the program going to go away? And so that's the reason why I try to weigh out all the pros and cons in regards to topics and situations that arise in America. And so that's the reason why I kind of brought that in a little bit. People may experience individuals that may try to take advantage. I guess I'll use that word, better choice. Take advantage of the recipient that is trying to apply, because I see so many things that are out there on social media, and some of the things are not, I guess I would like to say they're not, I guess it does not match to some of the other answers that I have heard from some of the other immigration attorneys that we have had on the show, and so that's the reason why I wanted to bring that point out, that they need to be very, very careful as to who they select and do their research, and the broadcast is to also help them to feel a little bit more optimistic, I guess, as to their options in regards to the program, as far as whether it's going to leave and them trying to apply. I think we have discussed some issues in regards to them purchasing homes. Some of them are in the middle of that. Should I purchase a home or should I wait to see if the DACA program is going to go away? There's a lot of things that are up in the air with the immigrants here in the United States. So what are some of the tips that you would like to leave with the audience and the those that are trying to retrieve more and more answers as to the program, whether it stays or whether it is leaving?
Yeah, so the number one thing that you can do, this is a federal issue, so it's contacting your federal representatives, whether it's your senators, whether it's your representative in the House, and vocalizing what you want to see. For example, stop using DACA as a poker chip, right? Stop using it as a negotiation tool. Put it through, let it go through. There's a lot of politics that go on with it, see what it is. But supporting the program, supporting immigrants in general, is really important now, and it's that's for the policy change that you kind of asked me about earlier when I circled back to a previous comment. But I mean, that's how you can advocate. You can also advocate within your communities. So there are certain things that, even though DACA and immigration is a federal program, there are certain things that can be done on a state level. So, for example, some states allow a driver's license for people who don't have immigration status. Maryland is one of them. This protects you. It protects, it's not about giving everybody a driver's license and, they get a benefit regardless of whether you feel about how they entered. This actually protects you because now you have a record of the people on the road, and they're required to get insurance, so you're not going to get hit by an uninsured motorist. This is a public safety thing, but it's a state-by-state thing. For example, one state over from me in Virginia does not allow that to happen. It doesn't mean that people without status don't drive. It means they're driving without insurance and without a license, without any sort of, background. We all had to study our driver's ed for our driver's ed test kind of thing. So these are important things to support immigrants. Also, with covering immigrants or people without status, for health care, because we want people to go to the doctor, especially when we're in this national pandemic. Yeah. We don't want somebody with COVID not going to get the COVID test and going back to work and showing up and infecting us.
Right.
So providing things like, so we say, there's an argument we don't want to give money to people who don't have status. That's the wrong way to look at it. Yes, okay, fine, they're getting a benefit, but really we are also getting a much greater benefit to a lot of these things that are supposedly pro-immigrant. I would make the argument that they're pro-public safety, pro-public health, things like that. So providing those opportunities for, for those kind of, social supports, which actually help us all as much. And then the last thing that we can do is supporting personally the immigrants. There's a big, wonderful movement, especially coming out of Black Lives Matter, to patronize more of Black-owned businesses instead of going to big box chains or, whatever else. Is to, be conscious about our consumerism. And we can do the same thing for our immigrant neighbors, going to the street, that has all of the immigrant businesses, that kind of thing, intentionally going there, intentionally, spending your dollars where you think it matters. And also supporting, again, some of the public support things. One of the measures that the government has taken, the federal government has taken, is to restrict certain things and restrict immigration benefits based on, it's called a public charge. So the thinking that, an immigrant who may end up, being on welfare, receiving food stamps kind of thing, can be, their petition might be denied because of that. So that's created a lot of fear within, the immigrant communities, and it means that they're not reaching out for the help that they need. So, for example, having to show a government-issued ID in order to access the food bank.
Okay.
The food bank, at least here, doesn't keep a record. It's not like that would ever be reported, but it's creating fear. And so families are not getting, the food that they need, for example. So here we've branched out from our food bank, and there's an independent organization that's been doing food distributions, and you just show up. You don't show an ID. You show up. Here's what, we'll give you what we can give you, and help support your family. These might be U.S. citizen children that need the food. It might be, maybe it's not. I don't know. Like I said, we're not asking. If you need the help, you need the help. And I mean, I can't tell you to be, to open your heart to other people. But again, it's also a public benefit to all of us to make sure that, for example, children are getting food. And we had COVID testing where you just drove through and nobody asked. Obviously we had to ask your name or whatever, but it was done through a private facility because the immigrant community was very nervous about going to a public facility and having the government have their information. So this was another way to do things like support public health, in a way that was friendly to immigrants. So looking for opportunities like that to, support both the immigrant population, but also to benefit our community. There's things at all levels that we can do.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is the time where you can be able to share with the listeners and the audience as to how they can be able to follow you on any social media platforms or any books that you have perhaps have written that can be able to be support to them, or any community events that you have. You can share that at this time.
Sure. So my law firm is Elpis Legal. You can find it at www.elpislegal.com. The Facebook page is by the same name, so you can find the firm on Facebook as well. If you're interested in having a consultation or reaching out for more information or more advice, you can reach me at 443-741-2258 or sending an email to elpislegal@gmail.com. elpislegal.com. And, I'm happy to chat with anybody. Immigration is a federal practice. I have clients all over the country, so if I can be of assistance to anybody, I'm happy to be so.
Perfect. You have really, really paved the way today on the broadcast, and we thank you so much for your tips and resources that you have brought to the show on today in regards to the DACA program as well as to how individuals can be able to do their research and the pros and cons of it. And it's very important for these discussions to be able to continue in regards to immigrants as to how this will affect them in the future. And we thank you so much today, Becca, for all of what you have given to our audience on today. So for all upcoming events, you can go to our website at www.womenwhorockWithSuccess.com. So everyone, have a great and awesome day. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for the conversation.